I want to talk about this New York Times op-ed by Mitt Romney titled "Tax the Rich Like Me." It's been widely praised as serious, responsible, and solution-oriented to saving Social Security. And at first glance, it sounds like exactly the sort of sober, statesman-like intervention we've been told we need more of. But if you actually read the piece, two things become very clear very quickly. First, the new taxes he's proposing wouldn't actually apply to him, and even if imposed, they don't fix Social Security. This is not a solution, it's a performance, and worse, it's a performance that shifts the burden away from people like Romney and onto people who actually work for a living. Now, before I go any further, let me say something up front because it matters. I actually like Mitt Romney. I have defended him for years. I think he's decent, competent, serious, and genuinely well-intentioned. This is not a personal attack. What follows is a critique of an idea, and a bad one. Romney is absolutely right about one thing. Social Security is barreling towards insolvency. Of course it is, it's a pyramid scheme. It was designed as a pay-as-you-go system that depends on a constantly growing workforce. That worked for a while. It no longer does. Absent reform, benefits are projected to be cut by about 23% in the near future. The arithmetic is very real. What is not real is Mitt Romney's solution. The essay opens by invoking Elon Musk, billion-dollar estates, and he talks about 300-foot mega yachts. And so you think, good, now we're going to have a moral reckoning with extreme wealth. But that framing is a setup because the policies Romney actually proposes do not meaningfully touch people like Musk or Romney himself. Instead, we get a familiar bait and switch. He argues that wealthy estates should pay more in taxes, but of course he would not pay that, only his heirs once he dies. He says people who own investment properties should pay capital gains taxes when they sell their properties to buy others. But again, this has nothing to do with him or the wealth he has accumulated. And then, and this is so classic, he proposes raising payroll taxes, which again he would not pay since he's not on anyone's payroll. Such a tax does not touch billionaires living off of capital. It does not touch dynastic fortunes. It does not touch Romney himself in any meaningful sense. Payroll taxes apply to earned income, so they affect middle-class folks who work. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, small business owners, dual-income professional households. Romney, under the guise of tax the rich, proposes raising these taxes on anyone making over $170,000, a figure that may sound lavish until one checks Zillow in New York or New Jersey or California or any number of other states where high incomes coexist with staggering costs of living. We do not own super yachts. We do not employ battalions of accountants. We are trying to build wealth, not merely preserve it. This is the sleight of hand, and it is depressingly familiar. Conservatives recoil at the phrase tax the rich because experience and logic teach us what it always means in practice. Tax everyone in the upper half of the middle class and above. The rhetorical villain is Elon Musk. The actual payer is the working professional. Oh, and charities. Romney wants to limit how much wealthy people can give to charities as well. And what do we get in return? Nothing. No higher rate of return, no ownership, no inheritance, no flexibility, no opt-out, just higher mandatory payments into the same system, structured in the same way, producing the same paltry benefits, and facing the same demographic collapse. This is where the argument completely falls apart. Social Security is not merely underfunded. It is structurally irrational. It is an investment program in which the money is not invested. Workers pay in for decades. That money is immediately transferred to someone else. It never compounds, it never grows, and when the worker dies, there is no principal left behind for a spouse or children. This is not a minor design flaw, that is a moral and economic catastrophe. Over time, this system has quietly crushed intergenerational wealth formation, especially among people who rely most heavily on wage income. Had even a portion of those mandatory contributions been placed into private inheritable accounts, invested in the American economy, millions of families would today possess real assets instead of a government promise that disappears at death. $1,000 invested in the American stock market several decades ago would today be worth close to $1 million. Instead, Americans are compelled to pour hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime into a system that might pay them $30,000 a year if they live long enough, and which leaves their families nothing. That's not social insurance, that's enforced dependency. Romney never confronts this reality. He accepts the system as a given and asks only how to extract more money to sustain it slightly longer. And notably, he never tells us how much revenue his proposals would actually raise or how long they would delay insolvency. No numbers, no timelines, no serious accounting. If this is arithmetic, the math is conspicuously absent. What we get instead is moral language about fairness, paired with an admission that higher taxes slow growth. Romney acknowledges that growth is the real escape from debt, and then proposes policies that suppress growth while refusing to touch the structure that guarantees stagnation. As I say this, I'm caused to recall an essay I wrote back in 2011 titled Mitt Romney versus Himself, where I observed that one of Romney's great skills is to take completely contradictory positions without any sense that he is doing so, or any understanding as to why they cannot both be right. I guess he hasn't lost his touch. And that comes in especially useful here because the honest reform is politically dangerous. To say plainly that Social Security as designed is a bad deal is to invite demagoguery. To say younger workers should be allowed to opt into private accounts is to be accused of cruelty to the elderly. To say that a system this badly structured would be criminal if run in the private sector is to violate a civic taboo. So instead, we get virtue signaling without sacrifice. Tax me, says the politician, carefully proposing taxes that do not apply to him. Be responsible, he urges, without specifying what responsibility accomplishes. Save Social Security, he proclaims, without asking whether it should exist in its current form at all. This is not statesmanship, it is respectable evasion. Mitt Romney's decency is real, his sincerity is genuine. But sincerity is not a substitute for clarity, and decency does not rescue a bad idea from being a bad idea. Raising taxes on working Americans under the guise of taxing the rich, in order to prop up a structurally broken system that they would abandon if given the choice, is not courage. It is the politics of delay. It solves nothing, builds nothing, and preserves nothing worth preserving. If conservatism means anything, it should mean the willingness to say that some systems, however well-intentioned at birth, have outlived their usefulness, and that real compassion lies not in taxing people more to sustain failure, but in giving them ownership, inheritance, and the freedom to build. Americans deserve to be able to provide for themselves in retirement. Social Security, as currently constructed, makes that harder, not easier. It is an investment so poor that participation must be mandatory. That alone should tell us everything we need to know. Thanks for watching.